So I made a lot of money in the online coaching space. I've helped lots of other coaches make a lot of money in the coaching space. And what I'm going to do inside of this video here today is break down for you what does it actually take to reach six figures. All right, so I got some different notes here. I got some notes on my computer in front of me. I've also got a little bit of a notebook here. So if I'm looking around, just want to share with you some thoughts and things I've been thinking through. So if you're brand new here, by the way, my name is Tel. I'm the owner of Content and Clients. I got started as an online fitness coach back in 2016. All right, I dropped out of college and I was working in the trades. So I was working in construction. I was coming home. I was growing my business in the evening. Eventually, that business grew into my gym, Kings Barbell, that I opened in 2019. And it wasn't until I'd actually been, building coaching businesses and all these sorts of things in the fitness space for a good 5 or 6 years that I actually even got into consulting. So I've been doing consulting since 2021. So for about the last 5 or 6 years. Now, my wife is still actively in the fitness coaching market. So she's an online fitness coach. We are in the process of starting another fitness business. And so everything that I share with you is number one, from my own personal experience. Number two, it's from us still actively being fitness coaches. And number three, just the only things that I share is just stuff that I've personally done or I've helped other people do. So, with that being said, again, what I want to share with you is what it actually takes to reach six figures. Most fitness coaches that I talk to, they want to reach the six-figure mark, right? A lot of people want to get to 10K months. You actually only need to be at like around 8 to 9K months to reach the six-figure mark. But living here in America, it's like you want to think about like after taxes and all that kind of stuff. Like how do I actually like put $100,000 in my bank account? Now, the thing that I want to start out this conversation with, I think this is so important. Only 6% of businesses cross the six-figure revenue generated like threshold per year. All right, only 6% of businesses basically generate six figures. And we're not even talking about like, hey, like business owners taking home six figures. I mean, like the businesses themselves, according to data, like literally 6% of businesses cross six figures. Now, out of that, like for most businesses, now we're all like in the online business space. And the reason I believe that the online coaching space is so cool and why like I really leaned into it is because the profit margins are so high. Like we don't have a lot of expenses. Typically, one of your biggest expenses is going to be taxes. Once you start to grow and scale, beyond 10K, it's like cool. Maybe now you start to get into things like ads. Maybe now you have some for hires and some things like that. But getting to six figures, when your biggest expenses is just going to be taxes themselves, right? And so that's why like it's the future, right? And then plus like you're seeing like the real world right now, like AI is disrupting so much stuff. There's so many different industries that are being taken over. So many different companies are laying people off. And the online vehicle, like online business and coaching and services and agencies and masterminds, like this is the future, right? E-commerce, like this is the future, no doubt. And so again, but only 6% of businesses even cross six figures. And so it's actually a pretty big feat to be able to cross six figures in your business, right? I've been able to help over 50 like fitness coaches actually cross the six figure, $100,000 a year mark. I've helped a few hundred add anywhere from like 3, 5, 8K a month to their business as well. And so the stuff that again that I'm sharing with you, it's not easy. All right, like it's not easy. There's so much content noise out there in the space, and if you just like get on social media and you start to look around, you compare yourself to other people. It's really easy to believe that everybody's crushing, that everybody's at six figures, that everybody's out here, everybody's millionaires, everybody's got Lambos, and the reality is like that's just literally not true, right? The reason that's really deceptive, by the way, is because the algorithms like are really well trained in 2026 to be able to show you the content that it knows that you're going to want to consume. And so, if you are out there looking and watching what everybody else is doing and you're seeing all these other people that are being successful, like your algorithm's going to pick up like, hey, this person likes to see Lambos. This person likes to see penthouses. This person likes to see, the people that look like they're winning. And so really you don't realize, but if you actually take a step back from things, you're probably only seeing, 20 to 30 people over and over and over showing up in your feed who are successful more than likely, or maybe they're just portraying success, right? There's a lot of people that are just portraying success. They, are renting the cars, or maybe they've even purchased the cars, but it's like, they're making $15,000 a month, and then they're spending $3,000 to buy the Lambo, or $5,000 a month to buy the Lambo, another $8,000 on the penthouse, and at the end of the day, like they're basically living paycheck to paycheck on $15,000 a month, right? Like there's a lot of people that are portraying success right now. And if you are judging yourself and your level of success based off of that sort of content, it's like, yeah, it's like your head and your image is going to get really warped around like what reality actually is. And so that's why in this video, what I want to do is I want to dive into, I got three different things I want to share with you here today. I'm just going to give you the points, and then we're going to like break into this, have a conversation around it. Again, the conversation is like, what does it actually freaking take to reach six figures? I've been able to do this time and time again inside of my businesses, inside of different coaches that I've helped, and I know what it takes. And the thing that it takes is it takes doing things differently. All right, that's gonna be one of the best ways to put it. I was gonna say it takes doing a lot of hard work, and that's absolutely true. But the big thing I think that would even be more useful and helpful in this conversation is that you are going to have to do things different. All right, if only 6% of businesses reach the six-figure mark, right? We're talking about like a very small number of people. Like statistically, if there are 20 of you guys watching this video right now, only one of you is going to reach the six-figure mark. That's just the raw reality. That's the math behind it. And so if your day-to-day schedule and your mindset and your worldview and the way that you're thinking is like the other 19 people that are watching this video right now, then you're just not going to reach that six-figure mark. That's the raw reality of it. And I don't mean this, we're just gonna go ahead and dive into this. I don't mean this in any sort of like hustle culture, like bro culture sort of way, even though like I'm a gym bro type person, right? That's just the raw reality of it. 6% is 6%, right? Like that's just the math. 6% is 6%. And so let's go ahead and dive into these. So the 3 points I'm going to go through them is number one, you have to be willing to take risk. Number two, you have to be willing to look stupid. All right, risk looking stupid. And number three, you have to understand that it is value over views. All right, and that's when it's coming more to like how the way that you should actually be showing up. So I'm gonna go ahead and dive into these. I'm gonna riff on these a little bit. Like I said, I've got some bullet points here, but for the most part, I'm just gonna kind of free flow on this and just kind of see where this video even goes. So number one, I want to start out with you have to be willing to look stupid. In 2016, when I dropped out of college, I looked incredibly stupid. All right. It is in 2026 more of a popular thing where people are like, hey, schooling is a scam. The education system is a scam. Like that's a, whether or not you even believe that, like that's not really that hot of a take. Like there's a lot of people that believe that. I was kind of the last wave of people where like that was a hot take. I was kind of that last wave where it seemed like it was kind of the next few years is where the idea that, hey, maybe college isn't the right route really became popular. So when I dropped out, first of all, being in high school, like I kind of knew I didn't want to go to college, and I was really kind of pressed of like, hey, you're like pretty smart, you've got good grades, you're top three in your class, like you've got a bunch of scholarships, and if you want to be successful, like you need to go to college. That was basically, even though nobody ever like directly sat me down, I mean that was kind of the tonality and the message that was being pushed. And so, I ended up going to college, and long story short, I get a couple semesters in, and I'm just like, dude, this is just not for me. This is not the thing. I was like, I want to build businesses. I love fitness, and I know that that's the path that I want to go. And so I risked looking stupid. I dropped out of college, and I started doing this social media stuff back in 2016. Now, one of the biggest objections that I would get on sales calls back in 2016 was people literally just being like, what is online fitness coaching? You're an online fitness coach. What does that even mean? What is coaching? What is online coaching? Is this a scam? Right? Like people didn't understand like what online fitness coaching was. If you've just gotten into fitness coaching in the like kind of post-COVID era, you wouldn't have that sort of perspective that I have on things, because when COVID hit, everything shifted online. Like even the boomers and all the old people like suddenly were accepting of online services and the idea that like, hey, you can work with business owners in the online space. You can join online fitness coaching programs, right? Like everything blew up over really the last like 5 or 6 years. It was not that way back in 2016. And I mean, I remember, I would go to parties and end up going home early or whatever, because it's like, hey, I've got to go home. I can't. I'm not trying to get drunk. Like I'm trying to get my sleep. And I got to wake up and I got to get to the gym, or I've got to like work on my business and things like that. And just would hear stories of the things that people were saying about me behind my back. Like, dude, this guy's like kind of weird. What's he think he is? He think he's some sort of like influencer. Man, have you guys seen all the stuff that he's posting recently? Right? But I had to risk being willing to look stupid because I knew what it is that I wanted. Right? I knew that I wanted to build an online coaching business. I knew that I wanted to better myself. I knew that I didn't want to just like settle and just talk about, be that person that just like grows up talking about their glory days and, the things that they used to do in high school 40 years later, right? I knew that I wanted to level up. I knew that I wanted to break generational curses. I knew that I wanted to step out and figure out something new for me in my life and for my family and generations moving forward. And in order to do that, I knew that I was going to have to do something different. While everyone else was taking this more conventional path, I knew that wasn't going to be my personal path. And I didn't say anything about them specifically. There was no judgment or anything about them specifically. It just was not the right path for me. And I knew that. And so stepping out, I looked stupid to most other people, right? And we can go down a whole path. There for a while, like things got really dark. I used the fuel of feeling the haters. I used the fuel of taking in everybody that said I could never be successful. Like I used a lot of that stuff in my early 20s. Nowadays, I'm 31 years old. Nowadays, it's like I've completely moved on beyond that. And, nowadays it's about the love of the game. It's about just like waking up and enjoying what I do and getting to show up and to be skillful and to showcase the gifts and all of the work and everything I've been doing for the last 10 years. But back then that's not what I used. I used that risk of looking stupid to really like step out. And this is what is going to be required if you want to get to the 6-figure mark, right? 6% of people reach the 6-figure mark. You are going to have to stand out. You're going to have to not be afraid of potentially failing. You have to not be afraid of potentially putting yourself out there and maybe not getting the type of results that you want. You have to not be afraid of, taking some different actions, trying some different things, not having them work out, right? Until you reach the point where you are realizing that like your mission and your passion for what you're doing matters so much more than your image, or so much more than what those people from your high school, that you graduated from 5, 6, 10 years ago are thinking and saying about you, right? Until your mission matters more than that, then you're just never going to reach that 6-figure mark, right? We're going to get to it here in a second with the value of our views, but like until you reach that point where you are willing to, again, like look stupid. I don't know how else to say it. Like this is one of the best ways for me to communicate it. Like to step out and to do something that is so clearly different than what everybody else is doing, and not to just like, kind of step out and dabble in it. Like this is one of the biggest things that I see hold coaches back is they step out and they kind of dabble in it. So like what I mean by that is like they spend money on a mentorship. They join like a business coaching program and like have this belief and this feeling that like they've done something, that they're being successful because they've like taken a step forward. Now, number one, first of all, huge props, right? Because like a lot of people never even take that first step, right? They're like way too stuck in their own way of like, I'm going to try to figure it out myself, or, what I'm doing is not working, but I'm just going to land a few more clients and then I'll take that money and I'll invest it, right? Like so many people never actually make the jump to joining some sort of program and getting the help they need. But then on the other side of that, it's understanding like that's just the beginning of your journey, right? It takes an all-in move. And if you don't go all in, if you do not fully embrace that this is the direction I'm going, this is who I'm going to be, and I'm going to let go of my past identity. I'm going to let go of the plan that I was plugged into before. I'm going to let go of this rope, this safety net, this job, this normal, mundane, day-to-day routine that I have been stuck in that looks a lot like everybody else, like the other 94% of people, until you're willing to let go of that and say, you know what, I'm going to actually take the risk, which is going to be point number 2 here. But I'm actually going to risk looking stupid, and I'm going to put myself out there, and I'm going to send it. You're just not going to experience success. So how does this show up? Number one, this begins to show up in the way that you post content, right? So many coaches right now, they are just posting generic fitness tips, right? They are like, we are in a very ego-driven, expert-driven industry where everybody is trying to look a certain way. And so what that's leading to is they're afraid to say anything that might be controversial. And I don't mean just like things that are just like triggering. I don't mean that sort of controversial, but like they're afraid to actually stand on some hills, right? They're afraid to actually plant a flag and put some different opinions out there and to stand for something and to actually be polarizing, to say like, hey, I believe keto is the best way to do things. To say, hey, you know what? I believe that busy moms shouldn't even get a gym membership and instead they should train at home, right? We're in an industry where not only is it really easy to be afraid of like maybe looking stupid, but then on the other side of things, we have a lot of very insecure, which is like funny, right? It's like why most of us get into fitness is out of insecurities. But we have a lot of very insecure people who then tear each other down. And they go, oh, the science on what you're saying is a little bit incorrect. You're stupid, you're dumb, you're not actually smart. And then we have all these other coaches and stuff that are tearing each other down. You have to just put all that stuff to the side. And you just can't be afraid of looking stupid. You can't be afraid of what other people are going to say. You can't be afraid of the hate that you're getting. You can't be afraid of the negative comments that you get. Like every single day, I have people that are telling me that I'm a scammer, that all of these business gurus are just ripping everybody off, that, like if you were actually good at this stuff, like, why would you be teaching other people? Like just like endlessly like on and on and on and on and on. When I was a fitness coach, it was always like, I'm 5'5", right? Like I'm super short. I'm not going to ever be the biggest dude in the gym. I'm not going to be the strongest dude in the gym. Although I was a powerlifter, a strength coach, relatively strong, all right? But I'm never going to be the strongest or the biggest. And I would have so many people when I was a fitness coach that would come at me and, talk about how tall I was. They talk about how much I weighed, or they would talk about just like any number of things to try to attack and tear me down. When I opened my gym, Kings Barbell, in Dayton, Ohio in 2019, we had people from 21 different states in the first 6 months come into town, whether they flew by plane or they drove their vehicle, come into town. I'm talking about, so I live in Ohio. I had clients come up from Florida. I had people traveling from California, people from Arizona, like people literally all over the United States coming into town to train with me, to lift with me. They would spend the night and spend the weekend, and we would have conversations and we would go out and get food and we'd grab a couple beers. You don't have that happen off the back of just playing safe. All right. What am I trying to say here? What I'm really trying to say is the reason people did that is because they saw that what I was doing was something different. They saw someone who was confident in who he was, that was clear on his mission, that was tapped in, that was driven, that had ambition. They see this 21-year-old kid starting his online fitness coaching business. They see this 24-year-old kid launching and starting a gym, right? They see this young guy that is so enthusiastic, so excited about life and sending it, and they wanted to be around that, right? And that's not like, again, I don't mean that in any weird ways to like make me sound like I'm like somebody crazy. It's like you can do the exact same thing. That's literally what I'm trying to say. It's not that I'm special or something that like, oh, Tell's got something that none of us have. It was that I was willing to look stupid. I was willing to look stupid. I was willing to just say, this is my dream. This is the thing that I want to do. And so I'm going to go for it. And I'm not going to care what other people think. I'm not going to care what other people say. And then here we are 10 years later, right? And not only started an online fitness coaching business, not only have I started a gym, not only have I been able to now step into the business coaching space, I have literally, like I said, helped over 50 coaches reach the six-figure mark themselves. A couple hundred I've been able to help get from 3 to 5K months, right? Like literally adding 40, 50, 60, $70,000 a year to their family's income. Like this stuff is like significant, and it all literally came from a decision that I made to be willing to look stupid, to risk reputational risk, to risk putting myself out there in a way where I could be judged and just not having the fear of actually being seen. And so let's move on to point number 2. There's probably gonna be a little bit of overlap here because point number 2 is you have to actually be willing to take risk. I know we've been talking a lot about that. But the different angle, maybe the different approach I want to shift the conversation to here a little bit. The first conversation was more of like you have to be willing to take a reputational risk. You have to be willing to look stupid. The other conversation now with the taking risk conversation, where I want to kind of shift to this now, is you have to be willing to take risk as a leader and actually put your reputation on the line. Like the biggest reason right now that I'm seeing fitness coaches struggling to scale, struggling to, charge high ticket, struggling to charge the prices that they actually want to charge is because they are afraid to actually take reputational risk. And that's the game that we're all in. We are all in the game of letting people know that we have a program and that program is a solution to certain problems and that we can actually help them solve those problems if they pay us money. In other words, we are putting our expertise and our reputation on the line, and that is the game of business, right? So many coaches, the reason why they charge less than they actually want to charge people is because they hold a fear that somebody's going to pay me this money and then maybe I'm not going to deliver. Maybe I'm not actually good enough. What if somebody doesn't actually get results? What happens then? And what I'm here to say is that if you want to get to 6 figures, like this is going to have to be a fear that you're going to have to overcome. This is leadership. Leadership is it's shouldering the burdens of responsibility. That's really what people are doing when they're hiring us as a coach. Whether they're hiring us as a fitness coach or if they're hiring me as a business coach, they are giving you the burden and the responsibility of setting them up with the correct plan to actually be able to get them the kind of results they want. That's fundamentally what business coaching and fitness coaching and just coaching in general actually is. And so the real problem here is that you have to actually believe that you are worth investing in, right? And the best way to build belief, by the way, is to actually sit down and to create something that convinces you, that sells you. Like so many coaches, the reason why they struggle to want to do like high ticket with their fitness program is because they know that they've not really done a lot of thought work inside of their program. They know they've not really developed the IP and the frameworks and the playbooks and the systems and the processes. Like they know that their service is like, if somebody comes in and they're very highly self-motivated, that they can just like cruise through it and they'll crush and like they'll do well. But they also know that on the other side of things that there's that's like the small amount of people. That's like maybe the 20% of people that come through. They're just those really great clients. But that the 80% of people that come through, they just don't really get that great results. And so what's happening is, they're taking this reputational risk, and then 80% of people are coming through the program and they're not getting that great of results. And so you start to create this like really vicious cycle where you're seeing confirmation that your program sucks. You are getting on sales calls, and because your program sucks, you are struggling to actually sell yourself. You're struggling to actually come in there and be as confident as you could be. A client maybe says something bad or says something mean, or again, somebody doesn't get a result, and so they offboard and they don't continue working with you inside your program. And so then your confidence again takes like another hit, and there starts to create this vicious cycle where you start to try to separate yourself from your program. You go, you know what? If I can just charge lower prices, I won't be as involved. They'll kind of just have to run and take the program themselves, and then they're the one that's shouldering responsibility. I'm now taking a little bit less risk. They're going to be the one that shoulders responsibility. And what it does is, while it can feel smart and it can feel like the right move, what it does is it creates this vicious cycle where you spiral down to the bottom. Because the program is cheaper, people don't actually want to invest in it. People don't actually, they say like people who pay attention, right? Because they're spending less, you're like, hey, I'm going to charge $100 for this program. They don't take it as seriously. They don't actually show up. Because you're charging less, you yourself don't show up as much because it's not really what you're being paid for. So because you're not showing up, they're not getting the accountability, they're not getting the coaching they need. And so then it's just a spiral down. And eventually this puts you in a place where it's 12 months later and you're starting to realize like, hey, my revenue is way down. I'm not making as much money. People aren't getting great results. My business momentum is starting to die off. My social media presence is starting to die off because I had all this hype and all this stuff rolling before. If you want to build a successful, high-ticket online fitness coaching business, you have to understand that the risk you are taking is reputational risk. And you have to be okay taking that. Again, this is under the frame of if you want to get to 6 figures. If you just want to build this little business, that makes you 3, 4, 5K a month, and you just kind of chill out there, and that's all you ever do, you probably could disregard this entire video. You're probably actually not even watching it this far in anyways to begin with, right? But if you actually want to build a business that gets to 6 figures and multiple 6 figures, where you're making $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, you're going to have to put your reputation on the line. And so that means actually building a good freaking program. That means actually having the resources, the client journeys, the processes, the systems, the workshops, the check-ins, every single thing that you're actually going to need to be able to be successful. It means putting that stuff in place. The thing you have to understand is that the coaches who actually grow and scale their business, they are not more qualified than you. They're not special. They're not talented. They don't have things that you don't have or opportunities that you don't have. It's that they're willing to take the risk. They're willing to get on a call and to tell somebody, yes, I will help you lose 24 pounds over the next 16 weeks. And then they get off that call and they get them in the program and they fight like crazy and do whatever it takes to actually get them to lose those 24 pounds. They put their reputation on the line. They take the risk. And that's why they're able to actually grow and scale. That's why they're able to charge those higher ticket prices. I remember the very first time that I landed my first $1,500 paid in full. It was a 12-week program. It was $500 a month. Before that, my journey was, because I struggled with this massively. I started out literally doing free coaching. I coached people for an entire year for free. So I started out at free coaching. Then I moved up to $150 a month. Then I went to $225 a month. Then I bumped up to $300 a month. And the first time that I went from 300 to 500 and I pitched a $1,500 program, I remember still to this day, his name was James, and he's on the other side of the phone. I was like, cool, so it's a 12-week program for, all the coaching, access to my app, the check-ins, like everything we talked about, it's $1,500. And he literally was just like, oh, okay, cool, like, do you take a credit card? I was like, yeah. He's like, all right, perfect, let me go get that. And he literally just paid in full. And it was on that day that I realized like so much of the blockers and so much of the things that had limited me from actually charging the prices that I wanted to charge, from actually making the kind of money that I wanted to make, was on the back of my own insecurities. It was literally nothing to do with the market. It didn't have anything to do with that people weren't willing to spend that much on fitness coaching. It didn't have anything to do with any of those things that I'd been telling myself. It was literally off the back of me just deciding that I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to get into the arena. I'm going to put myself in a position to charge higher ticket prices, to like take on these types of clients and to risk some of my reputation. And it worked. It worked. Literally, it was like actually easier than trying to convince all these people at the $150 that they should actually sign up. Like when you charge these higher ticket prices, by the way, every single time I've increased my prices, I've gotten a better quality client. And it is because the person that comes to you is just so much more bought in. They're so much more serious. But also on the other side of things, what they're expecting is that you as well are going to match that seriousness. And if you're listening to this and you do want to reach six figures, I'm going to assume that you're like, yeah, I'm looking for the good clients. I'm looking for the serious clients. I'm looking for the clients that like actually want to do this stuff. And so this is a good thing. That's exactly what you should want. That's what's going to be needed to be able to get to six figures. So to get to six figures, number one, to kind of recap where we're at right now, because I know I'm just kind of like ranting and rambling. We're going to get to our third point. We'll wrap this up. But number one, you have to be willing to look stupid. You have to actually step out. You have to do different than other people. You have to be willing to put yourself out there, to risk being seen, being getting hate comments, having people disagree with you. Like you have to be willing to actually put yourself out there, not be afraid of looking stupid. Number two, you have to actually take risk. You have to put your reputation on the line, and you have to fight like hell to actually uphold that reputation. You're going to have to make promises to people that like, hey, I can help you do this. And then you're going to have to actually deliver on that on the back end, right? Number three then is value over views. All right, my third point that I want to drive home. If you want to get to six figures, again, I know like I keep repeating this, but you have to like really let this set in. 6% of businesses, right? How have I been able to do it time after time after time with the coaches that I help if only 6% of people make this happen? I promise you, it's not difficult. Actually, it's difficult. It's not easy. It can be simple. It is difficult though. I do take that back. I want to be a little bit more precise with my language there. It's not easy. It's 100% difficult, but it can be incredibly simple. Most of the blockers that hold coaches back from reaching the six figures point is literally mindset, mental, psychological barriers where people are holding themselves back. They're afraid to look stupid. They're afraid to take risk. They're afraid to just literally tell people the price is $500. And it's these sorts of patternings that are keeping them stuck. So number three, we have to understand that it's all about value over views. All right. One of the biggest lies in the industry right now is that if you just get more followers, you will make more money. It's one of the biggest lies in the industry right now, that if you just get more followers, you will make more money. And so what it's doing is it's creating this world where everybody's just chasing going viral. Everybody's chasing just getting views. And some of the coaches, first of all, number one, the chance of actually going viral is like 1%, right? Like most people are just never going to go viral. There's no way, like if your business plan is I have to go viral to get clients, you're just not going to be successful. There's no way to predictably go viral. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what prompts they're giving you, what AI tools they're giving you. There is no way to guarantee that we go viral. Most people are never going to go viral. And I will say actually that the majority of coaches that I've helped over the years, there's only ever been a handful of them that have had more than 10,000 followers. Most clients that I've helped have had less than 3,000 followers, right? I've helped coaches hit $10,000 months with literally 800 followers. I've helped coaches hit 10K months with 2,000 followers. Again, the majority of people that I have helped over the years have had less than 3,000 followers. So how are we able to build these businesses with such a small following? Was because we prioritize value over views. We actually provide value and we actually go deep with people. Because here's the thing you have to understand. It's like just posting content is not marketing, right? Like if you want to land clients, like you have to understand like what actually gets people to buy. I don't know if that's ever a question you've sat down and thought about. Like what actually gets people to buy, right? If you don't understand the psychological triggers that are deeply embedded inside of your ideal client's mindset, if you don't understand like what is going on internally in their world and the way that they view things around health and fitness, what their thought process is, and you're not creating content that is specifically catered to them and their worldview and actually shifting their beliefs, then you're not going to get leads and you're not going to get clients. So many fitness coaches right now, they are posting 3 chest tips. They're telling people it's 2026 and they're still telling people to get 10,000 steps in and drink their water, right? It's 2026 and people are chasing all of these viral trends and pointing around on the screen and doing these little dances and wondering why they're not actually getting clients. I've got coaches that are charging $1,500, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, $7,500. One of the coaches I've worked with was charging $10,000 for a year-long fitness coaching program. How are we able to do that, right? And by the way, the guy charging $10,000 for the year-long program had less than 2,000 followers, right? Less than 2,000 followers. So now he's much bigger than that. I think the other day when I saw he was like at 7,500 or something like that. But $10,000, literally less than 1,500 followers. So how are we able to do that? Well, we understand that it literally only takes one content viewer to get one single client. That it's not about how many people can we reach. It's about taking one specific person deep enough where they see and understand that we get exactly who they are, we understand their problems, we understand exactly how to help them, and that we have a real solution, that we are willing to put our reputation on the line and take the risk and let them know that, hey, I actually can help you, right? Views can feel like progress. Getting likes, getting followers, it can feel like progress because we see a number go up. But the issue is the goal is not to make our social media go up. The goal is to make our program go up. It's to get our bank account to go up. Now, it's not that followers and likes and engagement and things like that are necessarily bad. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying like, hey, it's a bad thing if you're getting likes, if you're getting views. But if that's the only thing you're getting, that's a bad thing. So again, so many people, they're prioritizing, how do I gain followers? What we're prioritizing is, how do we actually get clients? I've got 3,000 people that follow me, and like none of them are joining my program. Oh, it just must be all 3,000 people, right? It's like that doesn't even make sense, right? You're telling me that all 3,000 people don't want to work with me, and yet I'm thinking that they're the problem. 3,000 people, and they're the problem, right? Doesn't make sense when you start to put it in that kind of perspective. So it's like, okay, cool. There's 3,000 people, and there's not 30, 40, 50 of them that want to join my program. Like, wait a minute. Like, why is that? Well, you're the one creating the content every single day. In other words, it means that the message you are presenting to 3,000 people on a day-to-day consistent basis is not getting them to move. It's not getting them to take action. And so the content itself is off. The content itself is not, again, speaking to those deeper layer psychological pathways, like those psychological patterns and beliefs that they hold around health and fitness. And until you can figure out how to speak to those and how to actually get people to move in your online world and to actually go from just being a passive content consumer to actively pursuing your program and looking at it and then actually wanting to purchase and actually join up and get results, until you can figure out how to do that and to engineer content that pre-sells and takes people through the buyer's journey, then your content's really just going to be a waste of time. Like most coaches, they'd be better off just not even posting content, because it's just not doing anything effective for them in their business. And so the overarching thought that I really want to drive home here in the value of reviews is, it's not about just chasing, the dopamine hit of going viral. By the way, my whole perspective on this as well, I say this from a place of, I went viral many, many times in the past. When I was an online fitness coach, I was first getting started, I was playing the influencer game. I was gaining hundreds and hundreds, around like 800 to 1,000 followers every single month consistently. And I was doing anywhere from like 4 to 8 million impressions organically every single month. 4,500 comments every single month, right? I know what it's like to have a highly engaged social media profile. And I can tell you that I was making more money when I stopped getting as many followers and as many views. When I shifted my content away from just trying to go viral, and I actually began to try to understand the psychology of my ideal client. And I actually tried to begin understanding what they were struggling with and creating content that spoke to them at those deeper levels and shared insight and wisdom and things with them beyond just the generic 3 chest tips. When I stopped actually just hiding behind generic fitness content, hiding behind viral trends and just trying to get a bunch of views, and actually began sharing things that was valuable, that was useful, that's when my business started to grow, and that's when my program started to blow up. And so the real problem is, we're not just here to perform, we're here to actually speak to our ideal client. And so I know I just ranted for, I don't even know how long I've been going at this point, but I hope that there are some things that you've maybe taken away from this. Reaching 6 figures is, I genuinely, so my genuine take on this, I know that the numbers are only 6%. My genuine take on this though is that, like, I really do believe anybody can get to 6 figures. Getting to, multiple 6 figures and beyond really does take a special type of person. You really have to enjoy just the game of business. You have to be willing to do things that you don't maybe necessarily always like. You have to be willing to be super consistent. But I genuinely do believe that everyone can reach 6 figures, but a lot of people never will, right? And they never will because of this conversation. It's not a skill thing. It's not an opportunity thing. It's not that they're not good enough. It's that they, in their own mindset, will not allow themselves to be successful, right? They're not willing to look stupid. They feel like they have this image that they need to maintain, that they need to be viewed in a certain light. They're worried about the opinions of people from high school 10 years ago. And so they never actually make the leap. They're afraid to actually make promises. They're afraid to actually risk their reputation. They're afraid to actually shoulder responsibility, and actually lead. And so because of that, like they don't land clients. And then they're just chasing all the wrong things, right? They're chasing all the wrong things. They're trying to look the part rather than actually being the part. They want the views, but they're not actually chasing the value. They want the followers, but they're not actually filling their program. And so maybe you're watching this and, maybe all three of these click with you. Maybe there's just like one of these, maybe there's two of these. Either way, I hope that this maybe gives you something to maybe kind of think about. If you like all of this kind of stuff, you like the way that I'm thinking, would love to talk to you. Feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. Love to just learn a little bit more about you and your business. If you'd like my help, I've got a community program, I've got one-to-one coaching, just got different ways they can maybe help you. But if you're a serious fitness coach who is actually wanting to reach the six-figure mark, I would love to chat with you and, at minimum, just get to know who you are and see if there's maybe any way I can help you. So with that being said, I'm going to end this one here. Hopefully you took a lot from this. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.